Friend, the story of Don Antonio Iron Fist Cellini. Chapter 1. Cheating Contracts. It was a beautiful, sunny, windy day. The neighborhood, just like any other day, were hard at work, cutting their lawns and trimming their bushes. The children played on the park grounds as birds chirped and chipmunks dashed for their food. It was a wonderful time, a time of season, a time of peace and harmony, a time where all good things came out to play, a time where one certain individual out of hundreds of other people finally broke that great energy. The plate broke onto hundreds of pieces on the front sidewalk, my wife screaming hell on me as she lunges another plate. As I stood there in my drawers and wife-beater shirt, I could not help noticing the regret that flowed inside of me as she kept yelling at me about some skanky hoe. Cheryl Cellini looked more beautiful when she was angry, I do say so myself. But when it came down to violently destroying my hopes and dreams just because I am a made man in my little family business, well, that's where I draw the line. A gangster, as they all say or call me, I don't put up with any kind of bullshit from either the feds, rivals, my kids, or my fucking wife. Head the household and head the family, I got a certain duty to uphold, and trust me, any wise guy steps over the line. Let's just say bath times got a lot more complex than just bubbles and washing your hair. I remember this one time, me and the guys a few years back had to do this one job down by the docks in West End Harbor. That's where most of our shipments were coming to unload merchandise for other towns and manufacturers such as boxes and crates full of wine, DVD players, or cans of baby powder milk for the booze mart, pawn shops, and markets. But like any other smart aleck, we all knew what was the fucking lie, as the milk was cocaine, DVD players were time bombs, and wine, well, let's just say we love our wine, so we kept it the same. Nothing cold or special there. Well, back to our original story of the job. Mikey Two Shoes, bookie from the Nakasali family, once a loyal advisor, aka consigliere, had just been captured by my soldiers, aka soldados. We got a tip, very hot info, that a rat was informing about our biz and their biz as well. It affected my shipments as it put our two families at war, so I took matters in my own hands. Appointed as captain, also known as capo back, I led my troops into a very messy situation, just to put a truce back into order and bury the hatchet with this info to the feds. Fucking punk ass didn't stand a chance, let alone I was amazed he came alone with no notice of such a setup. If it were me, I always bring some kind of backup or weapon, or both, to make sure a meeting is well placed. Can't trust no one these days. But back to the point. After a swift beating with bats to the guy's legs and chest, we roped his hands together and his feet and attached the feet to a crane hook that dropped down from the tower above, just over the dock. Big C operated from in the box to move the crane off the dock and over the edge, lowered it slowly into the water below. Snake Eyes took out a silencer 9mm and shot both arms and legs. Figured that if we're going to force this guy deep into the water, might as well sense him up a bit, that way he can't swim. Now see, this particular tactic we call taking a bath, where we soap him up such as shooting his joints, his arms and legs so he can't swim, and then we place him into the water for the final rinse. As we all know, the poor schmuck drowns. After that, we wrap him up like you towel up a child, and we dispose of the body. That was our job, cleaning up the mess while the file and paperwork is done by government associates such as lawyers and corrupt cops. Hell, extortion and bribery was all we were about in those days. Don't get me wrong, I myself am a follower of the Lord himself, and I do admit what I do is a sin, nevertheless a crime. But I know redemption will soon come, and I repent my sins daily, and one day when I leave this world, the great Lord will forgive me. But as it stands right now, I'm pretty sure my wife is nowhere near forgiving for me what had happened the night before. I still stand outside on the lawn in a mess of broken dishes and my clothes tossed on the lawn. But hey, forget about it. Life goes on. Time to proceed in what's next to come. It wasn't long till my nephews Travis and Blair both came to rescue me and picked me up. After the boys in blue showed up, I told them my wife went over the edge. They suggested I leave her and let her cool off. That's when I called my two boys up and they came to get me. Figured I got no home, so I decided to crash at the office and the strip club. We got there, I quickly changed into something a bit more casual and played a few rounds of pool with my nephews, just to vent and settle the air a bit. I explained to them how Cheryl so-called caught me cheating with another woman, my Gomar, also known as Mistress. Her name was Annabella Foncita, great blonde with a huge rack and nice thighs. I always wore the tightest short dresses and high heels, bit heavy on the makeup, but made up in figure. I busted a nut in her so many times I'm amazed she ain't pregnant. Never mind that, I was also seeing her sister Sarah and their cousin Marcia. I wasn't one for protection when it came to sex, but the two sisters knew of each other and threesomes were hot and heavy, you know what I mean? The concerning part was that their cousin Marcia was a cop. She'd just been on the force for a year or two and still a rookie. No bribery was intended there. It was love at first sight. Then again, she had no clue I was a notorious gangster. I explained to her I do janitorial and part-time security, which is honestly not far from what I really do. I clean messes, take out the trash, and yet still uphold a law figure and catch people. Just more so a different side of the law. My nephews ended their game and left as I stayed behind to clean a spot on the visiting couch in the office. I wasn't in the mood for some pussy, so instead I decided to throw on some steamy porn and fondle myself to sleep. Wasn't long till I got woken to the club opening up and getting ready for the night of fun. They tested the music in the DJ booth, and the strippers showed up to change into their costumes. I got up and saw Uncle G sitting in his desk commenting to me a good morning. He was the only member in the family who dressed up like some kind of biker. Kind of putting him the odd one out really, but he was a family still, and we respected him for what he did and loved him for it. As the night dragged on, more and more staff and customers showed up to drink and work their asses off. As the main owner of this club and head security, it came a long way to make this dream come true. It wasn't long before the club became a hit, which we named the joint Heaven's Gate. At first, when I opened the place, it had a lot of cleaning to do. I insured the place fire, water, and repair damages, and instead of leasing the building, I simply just bought it. I already had family who were handy in fixing things like electrician and plumbing, so they just did a whole cost service. Strippers were a bit hard to come by, so we picked up a few hookers from the street, iced their pimps, and brought them in for protection and a job opportunity. Cleaned them from their drug addiction, bought them new stuff, treated them like queens, and promised to pay out to them, which they soon agreed. Hey, bada bing, bada boom. Soon after that, shit was sweet. Money came in like crazy, like a tidal wave in Hawaii. Can't complain. Even had my Gomar sister Sarah dancing and sucking dick from these customers. The way her mouth was, every guy can bust a nut in that cave, and she swallowed every drop. Soon after 9 p.m., the VIPs showed up. My main team, my family. There was Big C, who now is Capo, and his two Sedatos, Frenchie and Montana. Shortly after Snake Eyes, who is now an enforcer, brought his buddies JJ and Frankie and their other buddy, who is appointed hitman of my family, Mr. X. Real name is Xavier. Snake Eyes and Big C joined me in the back room or the office with Uncle G and his son, also known my cousin, Little C. We sat down, enjoyed a few shots, and Uncle G cooked us an excellent plate of pasta. 10 p.m. rolled around, and my nephew showed up, who also joined us. They sat by the door acting as guards, while the rest of us talked in a board meeting matter. The soldiers were watching dance floor, making sure no shit went down, with help of the security bouncers. After a long meeting and finishing up our 6 plates of pasta and meat sauce, we ended the meeting with a few more shots and decided to join the fun out in the showroom. A few private dances later, and tag teaming a couple hookers with a few of the guys, I was starting to feel a bit dizzy as the AM rolled around. I went outside with my nephew Blair and showed Facebook, still trying to wonder how to get back into my own home, where my wife Cheryl was still at. Suddenly a screeching noise came from nowhere, and a yellow Hummer rolled by with the black window open slightly enough for me to make out the tip of an SMG nozzle sticking out, opening fire at the club and front door at me and my nephew. Luckily we ducked just in time, but my nephew got hit in the lower right gut from some of the blaze of the bullets. I don't remember how long time went by, but I awoke in the hospital, with Cheryl by my side and Big C Sedato sitting in a chair behind her. She explained they stayed here all night and helped me here to make sure I'm safe. They found me out like a light in this parking lot, but my nephew Blair was missing. Those green leprechaun bastards must have kidnapped my fucking nephew. Cheryl explained to me she was sorry and overreacted. I laughed and thought to myself, you think? When she got the call, she was hysterical and rushed down to the hospital. I knew she still loved me, even for what I committed. My son Jaden ran into the room, and Cheryl's adopted daughter Luna. They both hugged me and asked if I was hurt. Boy, was I glad to see them. My happiness soon turned to a frown when the cops stepped into the room asking everyone to leave so they could chat with me. They all refused and said they stay. The loyalty brought tears to my ears. Officer June and Detective Mayo both started with their questioning as Officer June did the writing in his notepad.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Have you had negative impacts or experience?
No, we've been doing this for a while. We're based out of Tarpon Springs. We do Tarpon Springs PD a lot.
Did you get my good side?
Yeah.
He's got ID on you? Yeah, I know he's getting a good side. You guys got ID on you?
Well, I mean, are we being suspected of a crime now?
No, but I
I tell ya, they didn't get much out of me, except for what I decided to let them hear what they should only hear. Officer June seemed a little frustrated with the lack of info I gave, as Detective Mayo only sided off. He handed me his calling card and asked to call him if any further details came to mind. As they left, I looked at it and rolled my eyes, asked for Cheryl's lighter, and burnt it. Wasn't long that I finally got back into my own home again. Back with the kids and my wife. Boy, sure glad to be here again. How I missed it. Cheryl kept explaining to me how she forgave me and was worried for me. She even told me the time she cheated on me with our groundskeeper. I wasn't mad, really. Any guy could fuck my wife as much as I cared. But what really bothered me was now I have to infiltrate a rat in my inner circle and ice that motherfucking piece of shit before shit gets worse. I called up Mr. X and told them write down the list of names from my board meeting that night. Explained to him to be on standby once I figure shit out. He agreed, and I decided to pull up the greatest tactic in the art of war. Basically, I won't do fuck all and see what comes out of it, because I knew someone was going to slip up. I got dressed and drove to Central to have a coffee and cannoli at the bakery store on 5th Avenue. As I sat in the shop, munching away and reading the paper, I was soon disturbed by a pack of wild Asians who came and sat in my booth and stared at me. My 9mm handy, loaded, and ready to fire was in my holster under my top blazer, as I glared at the guy next to me, asking, what the fuck is his problem? My hand slowly reaching into my jacket was awkwardly stopped when I felt the sharp tip of a katana on my right side of my crotch, ready to pierce into my artery in my inner thigh. I backed my hand away again and turned my head to face a chink across from me. The man in the white suit smiled at me and complained why I haven't offered to buy him something to eat. I apologized and ordered him a sweet tart and a sugar cookie with herbal tea. The sharp feeling drew back again, away, as he said he was more than honored to join me for a quick bite and chat. To the left of me, out the huge shop window across the street, I noticed a glare from the blue unmarked van. I swore it was Detective Mayo watching me, or taking pictures anonymously. I looked at the charming guy again, and he asked me what my deal was with the Irish. I explained to him about that night, and all he did was tisk me and said such a shame, and then offered a deal with me as I explained to him I was looking into a unity contract with the triads and hoped to work out some kind of agreement. He was wide-eyed and amazed to hear my gesture, and then he smiled again and said that he was just thinking that, but under one condition. I asked, "What is that?" He explained that the Russians were trying to migrate the Chinese out of the south side, and they were a pretty powerful group. The deal was, if the Italians can make the Russians scram, they gain the Chinese honor, and then the Chinese be more than happy to make the Irish scram. Other part of the deal is, after cleanup, they share 50-50 costs and turf, and don't bother or cross lines with each other, and a respect bond must be made. Plus the Chinese would get product off us, as we would get other product off of them. I agreed to the terms, and we shook hands. He finished his tea, and told his boys in his language to go. As he got up, he adjusted his white suit, and said his name was Chow Ming, boss of the Golden Dragons. He then gave me his number and said to call him when the Russians are dealt with, and warned me that he be watching. I left the shop and started walking down the street to where my car was parked. All of a sudden the 2 Yahoo badge posse boys rode up on me and asked how my day was going. I told them coppers don't they have anything else better to do than stalk and take pictures of me. Detective Mayo suggested that with 2 friends like them, they thought it'd be a great idea to spend some time together and discuss my meeting with the triads. I replied back that they were no friends of mine, and neither were the 2 morons with badges. Detective Mayo warned me that they were watching as I said, "Yeah, I heard that before." They drove off as I continued on my way to my car, and just as I got there I was shocked. My car was totaled and smashed to bits and covered in paper shamrocks. It was time to put this agreement into play and destroy those ginger fucks once and for all.